Hello, everyone. So, welcome to this episode of Never Better Foods, Health and Wellness Living. Here, you're going to meet people you might know, people that you don't know, and people that now you're glad you do know. So, today we're going to speak with Scot Emerson, who's the executive chef at the Miami of Florida Hurricanes. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you, Doug.
So, Scott, give us a little background of where you're from, your journey that's taken you to, the University of Miami of Florida Hurricanes now.
Sure. So I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, um,
Nice.
not too far from where you are,
That's
right?
right.
The Dublin area, Grove City, stuff like that, kind of all around.
Yep.
And I got into cooking in Columbus and then was going to head to California, but I had a good buddy in Vermont, and I went to Vermont to snowboard for a season. And 32 years later, still found myself on the mountain just as a resort chef.
Nice.
So, yeah, it was fun. Feeding a lot of people, running a lot of restaurants on the mountain. I didn't get to snowboard as much as I used to in the old days, but it was still a lot of fun.
Well, I
So,
mean, cooking, it's when you're a chef, it takes a lot of time. I don't think people realize how much time goes into cooking. Plus, you were working at some pretty high-end resorts, weren't you?
yeah, we did. I did some very nice resorts, and it is I always tell people become a chef because you like to cook because that's not how it works, right?
Uh-huh.
It's dedication and sacrifice and mostly time and that's out of the kitchen, right? Like we
Uh-huh.
spend a lot of time in the restaurant, in the hotel, whether it was like the golf and ski resort, like the Equinox, which is a very nice place in Manchester. I was at Stratton and Okemo Mountains
Okay.
in Vermont
Okay.
from the ski side. We had some mini restaurants inside the resorts, whether it was at the golf course or banquets, catering. We have a high-end chop house at the Equinox, and then we had multiple restaurants around the mountains at the
Uh,
ski resorts.
yeah, it could be because Vermont is kind of a season all year round, right? It's not just skiing or not just hiking. It's kind of busy for whatever you like all year long outdoors, right?
Yeah, I think that when I first started, it was a lot more seasonal.
Okay.
It was either ski or enjoy the summer, but it was mostly about skiing in the winter. Then what we saw was that there were some high-end weddings that happened. Michael J. Fox and some other people who got married up there, and then it became this wedding mecca. So all summer long, we were doing weddings. So where we didn't have catering at the ski resorts before. Towards the end of my career, they were almost as big as the ski season itself. So,
Got it.
at least for
Got
the
it.
hotel part.
Okay. And then after Vermont, didn't you make your way back to Columbus, Ohio for a little bit?
I came back to Columbus as the head chef at Nationwide Arena for the Columbus Blue Jackets, which
Okay.
is where I started getting into sports service and the athletic training table. I worked with the nutritionist there,
Okay.
fed the players, was oversaw the club and the concession stands and the suites.
Okay.
The piece that was really interesting to me was the nutritional piece and the refueling of athletes or
Yeah, for
people in
sure.
general, but athletes specifically.
Yeah, luckily I've had a chance to be in the club level down at Nationwide Arena for Blue Jackets game, and that's nice. But yeah, very interesting feeding the athletes. So once you left there, is that what you then went to Miami of Florida, or?
I was still with the same company from Columbus, but I went to Cleveland first. It was right after COVID, so
Okay.
the chef had left, so I did a season. We had a little came back from COVID, did a season, went to Progressive Field, did the season there, got a chef hired,
Okay.
came back to baseball. So the seasonality never goes away of sports, resorts,
Yes.
never, it's just year round, right?
Okay.
Came back, did a hockey season, and then needed to go to Baltimore to Camden Yards, where I was
Oh,
the chef
wow.
for Camden Yards,
Okay.
and did that until I came to the University of Miami.
Wow. So you have a really extensive sports nutrition with these professional teams, and now Miami of Florida is almost like a professional team with the Hurricanes, who are every year contending for a national championship. But I think now, don't people start to understand a little bit more how nutrition plays into the athletes and their performance, right?
100%. Like I think we saw sports nutrition sort of take a quantum leap in the last few years, right? There's been some new equipment, new things coming out, new studies showing how important it is to recover, right? And it's not just about building the muscle, but how fast can you recover the muscle? And
Okay.
it's I've been told that, like for football, like you're only 100% of football your first day of practice. And every day after that, you're not quite 100. And the guys that win in November and December are the guys that are as close to 100 as they can get,
Yep.
right? And the only way to do that is to recover. And you recover specifically through your diet. What you eat and the foods and when you eat them, it really matters as to how that muscle is rebuilt. And I've seen some of the thermal imaging and things like that. It's really very, very cool the more I learn.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the healthy eating, plant-based is becoming part of that as well. I mean, what advice would you have for athletes or people that are, even weekend athletes, how they can eat and how that can contribute, like you said, to their muscle recovery or things like that? What advice do you have, if any?
Sure. Well, I mean, I guess I would speak it to anyone.
Yeah.
Really, you're right. It's a great way of life. If most people, as a chef, I look at food differently, right? Um, and I don't really eat for pleasure. A lot of people eat for pleasure. To
Yes.
me, there's a number of other things that are pleasurable that I don't do 80 hours a week. So eating is not really like the thing that I like to do, right?
Right.
But I like it. I enjoy food and I
Yeah.
enjoy cooking and I enjoy the community piece of it. But I think that, obesity is such a huge problem in our country right now. And we're seeing some of the uh, most cases of mental, whether it's anxiety or stress or whatever that we've ever really seen in our country, at least yeah in America. And a lot of that has to do with is diet driven. So whether you're an athlete or just a person who wants to live a better life, you really need to look at your diet first.
Yeah.
People can say reduce your stress, but you
That's going
can't.
to come inevitably. We're going to have
Yeah,
stress no matter what.
it's coming, but how do you recover from that stress, right? So
Yes.
the same kind of recovery we talk about for muscle recovery is the same kind of recovery we talk about for any cell structure, not just muscles in your body, whether it's your brain neurons or whether it's your blood cells, whether it's your liver, whatever it might be. We tend not to think like that. We tend
Yeah.
to just think this feels good. I'm going to eat this, and then
Yeah.
maybe somebody will give me a pill to lower my blood pressure. When really
Yeah.
the answer is get away from all the salt, right?
Yeah.
So healthy eating is the way to go. It really is the way of the future. And I think that I see our generation, that this generation really looking for a nutritious answer to their lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because at Never Better Foods, obviously we are a plant-based food company. So how do you incorporate, or how would you talk to people, whether it's a chef or even people in general, how to incorporate plant-based eating into their diet? Are there challenges doing that? Is it easy? Is it hard? What's your opinion?
I think it's easy. Uh, I'll say it like this. There's a lot of science behind it now. When I first started cooking plant-based was back in the 90s, the early 90s. I was at the resort. I was a young chef. I had just learned about sustainability and I was, working with farmers and I was at the Equinox for the first time as the chef de cuisine in this restaurant. And they're high end. And people were from New York and Boston landing their helicopters in the back parking lot to eat
Wow.
at the place, right?
Okay.
Like this was a cool place to eat in the
Yes.
summertime, right?
Yeah.
And I started getting these vegetarian and vegan requests, and I'm like, I can only make so much pasta primavera for these people. Like
Right.
I'm making all this really great food, and then I don't have an answer to this
Right.
better than, something I can just throw together. So I
Better than a
started.
salad. A few years ago, it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
salad.
right. Yeah, pasta primavera and a salad. Here's a breadstick.
Right.
Um, so I started looking into it, and back then there wasn't a lot on it. It was, sort of that granola crunchy, like don't eat animals, but I couldn't do that because my business is selling animals. So, you know, macrobiotics was big. And so I started to learn about macrobiotics, and we came up with a dish called grains, greens, and beans. And we changed it every night. And it became very popular. actually became one of the better sellers um, on the
Okay.
menu.
Yeah.
And we
Wow.
found out a lot of healthy people like to eat it, but it was something that was an alternative
Yeah.
to an animal-based diet, right? So I got really into that. And ever since then, there's been all kinds of diet fads, all kinds of things you should do, but really grains, greens, and beans are the foundation of a good plant-based meal.
Okay.
And a good meal, like you don't even need to add animal to it. If you put the right ingredients together and keep a variety of them and go to
Yeah.
your farmer's market, and go to the local, maybe ethnic store, whether it's well, I'm in Miami, so I have a lot of options here, whether
Right.
it's Asian or Asian
Right.
or Latin, but those tend to stay away from processed foods.
Yep.
There are processed foods there. Um, but you can find a large variety of things that most American supermarkets aren't going to carry, like 27 different kinds of beans
Yeah.
and 15 different kinds of rice and all
Interesting.
the different greens and things like that. So really, it's very simple. It's more the harder part is learning how to shop, right? Which is
Okay.
something which is a healthy lifestyle piece that we try to teach our athletes is how do you shop? So we take them to the grocery store, we
Yeah.
show them around, go around the outside of the grocery store. Don't stay away from the middle, like maybe some coffee, maybe some tea, and to get your rice, but try to buy everything so processed in there.
Yeah.
Try to stay to the outside. And that's really the key, I think. That and
Yeah.
stay processed foods, right? Not good.
And it has to taste good. And I think plant-based has come a long way, even in the last 4 and 5, 6 years on tasting better. And the texture is what we're used to.
Oh,
Because to
100%.
yeah, to your point, 10 years ago it was vegan or vegetarian, but now, I think it's almost 70% of people want to add plant-based or eat healthy for whatever their reason might be. And one of those, and you've touched on quite a few things, is sustainability. So how are you working yourself at the University of Miami, and even for yourself on sustainability?
Sure. So, sustainability is a lot of different
It
things, right?
is a
It's,
lot
it's,
of things.
it's so many different things. Like our Starbucks and our coffee shops, the Archivist, Einstein's and Starbucks, we save all those coffee grounds. We give that to the school. They work it into their compost piles and things like
Okay.
that. You've been to campus, right? There's a
Yep.
lot of gardens. There's a lot of plants, a lot of landscaping.
Yep.
And that's just one way we're keeping it being sustainable,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
We're not putting it in the ground. We're not creating methane. Well, we are putting it in the ground, but we're not creating methane in a plastic bag. We
Right.
are mixing it in, enriching the soil, making a
Right.
better garden. Okay,
Right.
that's one way. We buy fish is all from the Monterey Sea Aquarium, the Monterey Sea. I think it's aquarium that's
Okay.
about sustainability, right? So
Yep.
we don't buy from people who mass fish. You just go out there and dredge and
Yep.
take everything and kill it all, and
Yep.
we get what we wanted. That's not us. Produce wise, we do a lot of local produce, whether it's hyper local, like just in our area.
Okay.
Uh, Being a university, we have to have some sort of um, the farmer has to have some sort of HACCP plan, right? Like, I just
Yep.
can't bring the coconuts in from the tree outside.
Right.
I got to make sure that the people know what they're doing and a company has approved it and so on like that. So our local produce vendor has that built into their system where they're going out and they're taking care of all that. And anybody they bring in has already kind of been vetted, if you will.
Right. Right. Okay.
Unlike when I was in Vermont, where I was working with like 80 or 90 at least 80 or 90 farmers and food producers. And I had to kind of vet that because I have these people coming from the farm and they're growing my lettuce and these people are
Yep.
growing my tomatoes. So, but I have to go to the farm. I have to make sure their soil's clean. I have to see
Yep.
their farming practices, kind of look in the closet, under the bed, make sure everything is pretty kosher.
Right, right. No, you guys do a great job. Like you said, I've been down to Miami, Florida, and Scott, you've done an amazing job with the Hurricanes and at Miami. You also touched on teaching a little bit. Any advice for people out there, other chefs, other universities, restaurants on, educating people? Because I know you've mentioned you work with training your athletes. You also have something called plant-based canes. I know at the University of Miami where you're teaching people about cooking plant-based, correct? I mean, any advice you could give other people that are out
Absolutely.
there?
Well, we're very fortunate, right? Our new 40,000 square foot facility at Centennial Village has beautiful teaching kitchen built into it. We just did a teaching kitchen with tacos and mock margaritas, right?
Okay.
And 20 to 22 students.
Okay.
Everybody had their own station. They could make their tacos. We had all kinds of things for them to use for their tacos, including plant-based proteins, your cheese, by the way.
Yes. Thank you.
Very
And I
well. Yeah.
appreciate, working with you guys. Thank you.
And so the teaching kitchen helps a lot. We use that a lot to really just try to show kids basic techniques, because really a recipe is just someone's creativeness. It's really about the technique. If you know how to pan sear something, then you know how to pan sear anything. If
Yeah.
you know how to grill something, then you know how to grill anything. It doesn't matter what you grill, it's just what's in the mood for.
Yeah.
So if I'm in the mood for grilled corn, bam, grilled tomatoes, there it is.
Yep.
I
Yep.
want to pan sear, if I want to pan sear some mushrooms and make a little ragu, it's very, very simple once you learn how to do that.
Yep.
Then it becomes, what are you putting into it? And really, to me, that's whatever is at the market,
Got it.
whatever I can put my hands on that day, that's what I'm eating. It looks good.
Yeah. 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 So we'll start wrapping it up. So what do you see any trends that are happening out there with healthy eating? Anything that students, or I guess just, I leave it open. Any trends that you see?
100% there. I mean, plant-based is definitely one of the biggest trends in food service now. We hit on plant-based canes, the chef Alfonso, who works for me. I
Yep.
do that all the time.
Great guy.
Yeah, Alfonso's both guys, very good guys. Alfonso is the one who has driven this program for the last 2 years, and
Okay.
basically, it's a group of students that have grown from like 30 to almost 100 over
Wow.
the last year or so. Who it's basically a plant-based club that
Yep.
are all students out at the Hurricanes, and he makes them something. And they have their meeting every week. They do different things around campus, but he's always trying to innovate and find new ways, new foods.
Yep.
And like myself, really wants to stay away from processed foods. Like, I just don't think that's a good way to go for whether it's plant-based or not. Just stay away from that kind of stuff.
Right.
So he does that. Our Delicious Without station at Centennial Village avoids all 9 allergens, which opens it right up perfectly for plant-based food.
Yes.
And a way to get your plant-based proteins. We have a plant-based as a station as well at Mahoney. We find those stations are doing more and more business. People are interested in it.
Got it.
And they're not necessarily, here's what I think is interesting is it's not really for animal rights. It's not really for, I don't want to eat meat. It's just, I'm preferring to eat plants. And maybe sometimes I do, and maybe sometimes I'm not. I'm not a vegan.
Right.
I'm just eating healthy.
Exactly.
And I think that as plant-based kind of moves away from the veganism and the vegetarianism, not a lot, but just separates itself to say, hey, I'm plant-based and I'm going to fuel you and help you recover better than anything else.
Right.
Because there are times where you need to have extra protein that is easier to get, not that you couldn't get, but is easier to get, or some trace vitamins or some trace minerals, right, that are easier to get with just one helping of pork or fish or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But you don't need it every day. You don't need it all the time. And I think that's where the future is going to go, is people are going to realize there's some things that I need. I don't need as much of animal products, and we could get into agriculture and the detriment on the land worldwide, and we don't have to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But I don't need all that. I really need this. It's sustainable. It helps the environment.
Yes.
It helps me. Okay. And then whenever I need something else, then I'll just add that, whether it's a shake or what have you.
Right.
So I think that's where people are going.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I'm seeing the same trends, but it is interesting to get you. You're on the ground. You're meeting with, how many students are you? Do you have at Miami, Florida, including athletes, all students, everybody that you feed?
It's right around 20,000 students. and faculty and staff, right?
Yeah.
Like it's when you add everybody up, it gets
Yeah.
somewhere into right around 20. And then it
Yeah.
just depends on the day and things like that. And we have a lot of commuter students because there's a lot of new construction. So we have less students on campus right now
Yeah.
that live there that have their three meals a day.
Yeah.
But we do uh, offer the unlimited plan, which allows them to come and go as they please through the
Okay.
dining halls, which we have found that this generation loves to snack, right? They consider a snack a meal, and then not as traditional of breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You know what
Got
I
it.
mean? And I got to have this at the seven, and so they tend to come in and have a salad or have some fruit or have, make a taco or whatever it is they're doing, 3 or 4 times a day.
Got
Our
it.
flights are way
Another
up.
trend. Another
Yeah, it's
trend.
very interesting. I mean, and that's another thing about, plant-based stuff. It's very easy to eat, like fruits and vegetables. Just if
Yeah.
you like to snack, I mean, that's a perfect snack.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I always like to end with a couple of personal things. So, what is your favorite cuisine? Do you have a favorite cuisine?
There's nothing that I don't think there's a group of flavors that I typically favor over others. I do love Latin. When I was in Vermont, before I got into resorts, I was rated top 50 authentic Mexican chefs in the country. So
Oh, wow. Amazing.
I like the Mexican piece. Rick Bayless, thank you, Rick Bayless. He taught me a lot, and I was young and hungry. And I mean,
Yeah.
once you get to know me, I'm kind of tenacious,
Yes, you are.
and I go after stuff when I get pointed. I like what Kobe Bryant said: "Put all your eggs in one basket, and then go get some more eggs." Like,
Right.
right, like so
Right.
that's kind of how it is. But I like Latin flavors a lot. Mango and persimmon and passion fruit are some of my, papaya.
Okay.
I just love those flavors. So yeah.
Okay. And is there having to be a special dish that you say, hey, if you're having a special occasion, this is my go-to dish that I like to prepare?
Yeah, I would say it sort of changes and evolves, obviously, but I would say my most recent one that I really I like to grill and smoke. So
Okay.
all the vegetables, everything's got to be in the Traeger.
Got it.
I like that. So I take a whole fish, like a yellowtail or something, completely debone it, rice, peas, vegetables, and fruit, that's mangoes,
Right.
papaya, and I mix all that up, and then I put that in there, and then I tie the fish back up. And I wrap it in banana leaves, and then I just slowly cook it on the grill for a few hours, and it just comes out.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It sounds amazing. I'm getting
Good.
hungry thinking about it. Sounds good on a Friday afternoon.
Yep. Yep. For
Well,
sure.
it would be good on a weekend on a Saturday.
The next time you're down, we'll have to do dinner at my house.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, well, I want to thank you, Scott, for coming on. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening. And remember to go to neverbetterfoods.com. We're also on Instagram at neverbetterfoods and on LinkedIn at neverbetterfoods. Mine as well as Douglas Kantner. And then finally, we are on Amazon now. Our products are available on Amazon. So if you'd like to go on Amazon, we'd appreciate it. But again, thank you, Scott, for coming on. It's been a great
My
conversation.
pleasure.
All
Always.
right. Thank you, sir.
Cheers.
Cheers.